So let's really get into the crux of today's presentation. We want to disentangle post-traumatic growth. And to do this, we're going to do it in this way. We're going to really ask you to think about, can you integrate the science of well-being with your local wisdom? That's a key part of how we think about our work, that knowledge translation. Another way to think about that is like this. We have a diagram in front of you. It's about bringing together our lived experience, our wisdom with professional expertise and working around co-design or co-production. And this is how we think about delivering better mental health outcomes. And to support us to do this, we're going to draw upon the what, how. So those who are impact trained would know this is a centralized tool. And everyone is impact trained. This is the mnemonic or the tool which holds most impact for many, many people. It brings focus to three key questions. What is happening? What is important or our intent? And how can we apply this knowledge? So in a moment, we are really going to unpack what is the science and what is the science to practice wisdom, which Gabe's going to walk us through. We're going to think about that of what's most important after the break, and then also consider how can we apply that in action. So we're going to start here. So as I present some insights, I really would like people just to consider, what are you taking from this section? We really want you to encourage you to use the group chat. So please jump online. If you hear something which is resonating, can you please put it on the group chat? Do this at any point today, and we're going to bring some of these themes back up into the conversation. So I'm going to spend 5 minutes now giving you some really key scientific ideas and insights, and then I'm going to hand over to Gabe, who's going to take this much more broader and also more insightful as well. So if we're going to look at post-traumatic growth, we need to get onto a shared definition of trauma. And this is a very basic definition. Any event or experience which really overwhelms your coping and is often associated with the absence of emotional and physical safety. But we know that many of our clients have complex trauma, repeated trauma, often occurring in close relationships, which really overwhelms their coping ability and has an impact. So if we think about what is post-traumatic stress, because this is often a word that we hear within our space, and its most basic definition is the behavioral, emotional, cognitive or thinking and physiological symptoms that are often triggered after a traumatic event, that are often experienced as negative or have a functional impact. And at the most extreme end, we are talking about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So to that effect, what is post-traumatic growth? Because this is a word that gets us to think about this a little bit differently. And this is drawn upon the authors below, and these are the most cited authors in this area. So it's fairly strong, robust scientific insights. So I'm going to give you some key constructs, and then we're going to work with Gabe to pull them apart in a more practical way. So post-traumatic growth often refers to positive psychological change experienced as a result of a struggle with challenging life circumstances. So it's about positive change. But post-traumatic growth is not simply a return to baseline from a period of suffering. Instead, it is an experience of improvement in your internal world or external world that is often deeply and personal meaningful. So there's a level of personal meaning attached to what is post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth can coexist with negative psychological adjustment or post-traumatic stress disorder. So post-traumatic growth can actually occur alongside more difficult experience, and it's not the absence of negative feelings. This is a key message from the literature. Not everyone achieves nor brings an intent or desire to achieve post-traumatic growth, and that's okay. This is not a prerequisite we all have to experience. It can be an intent or aspiration, or it can be something we find spontaneously. In other words, we can bring an intent or aspiration to find post-traumatic growth, but we might just find it without even knowing it. And importantly, it does not need to be a goal, something we have to do in order to have positive post-trauma life outcomes. So this is some of the key ideas which we hear in the literature. How does that relate to our context? And I'm just going to link this now to trauma responsive practice, just so that people within our networks can really understand how we think about post-traumatic growth within the work that we do. So as a definition, trauma responsive practice is that intentional, skill-focused approach where supporting adults and systems really respond to those growth needs of the people they're supporting, but also build their capacity for future better outcomes. And if we draw upon trauma responsive practice, our approach is to also draw upon the deeper elements of intentional practice too, which gets us to think about these three key questions. What is happening for the person being supported in the context of their trauma? What is important here to bring focus to my intent? And how can we action this together? This is the key question that really gets us to think about post-traumatic growth. What is important to bring focus to? And the way we think about that is that we should bring an intent to build people's capacity to achieve post-traumatic growth outcomes if this is what's important to them. So our intent is to give people the best opportunity to have post-traumatic growth if that's what's important to them. And to do this, we need to hold on to a growth mindset or have a growth intent. So this is the foundation, the way we think about post-traumatic growth, the context of trauma responsive practice. I've given you the overview of some of the key scientific ideas as well as how it connects to our context. If you have any key insights, would love for you to share them. Would really want you to share them on the group chat. And now I'm going to hand over to Gabe, who in a moment, who's really going to work us through some deeper aspects.